For Sunday, March 19th, you found the Georgia Gang. Topping our agenda today, Underground Atlanta is finally sold. In DeKalb County, what else? Oh, how about pay raises and higher taxes? And in politics, it's all about stop us off. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
And we're glad you'll be with us on this Sunday that is not St. Patrick's Day weekend. For some reason, it was all messed up this year. Alexa Scott is recovering from an illness, an ailment, and so we have Theron Johnson sitting in. Glad you're here, Theron.
Great to be here.
Boy, you didn't smile real quickly, and I got a little worried. I thought, is he mad at me or what?
No,
He's a big guy, you know, so I didn't want him mad at me.
He's mad at the president.
Oh, Jeff's already vented. Thank you very much.
He has to get in his left-wing talking points already.
Yes, exactly. All right, State Capitol. Very calm session. Once casino gambling was put aside, it seems to me that they are just trying to do the work of getting out of town. For example, the big budget, that's usually a big argument. It's not. The Senate has passed what the House passed, which is basically 2% pay raises for the state's teachers. As you always point out, $1 billion in new construction, because that counts. They even got somewhat generous, something we talked about on this broadcast, which was using dental hygienists to take care of poor kids' teeth. They're even doing that. Something I thought was a very good idea. What else is in that budget? Where's the controversy?
So.
Where's the controversy?
Well, let me start off. And I don't fully agree with you. And if you go down there, you got to come down with me next week, because a lot of the actions we all know are in these committee meetings, and they're going through the committee process. Let me focus on education, and I know you guys want to weigh in, but I'm a little concerned that the charter schools, which are public schools, aren't getting the equitable funding. And this has been a big thing. Buzz Brockaway, Representative Brockaway, had some equitable funding in the House bill, and then as it's going over to the Senate, you know how things work, it gets stripped out, and we need to get it back in. So keep an eye on that one. We could talk about the fantasy sports bill, where Trey Kelly, the author, we don't know where the money goes. It's a tax.
I mean, there's so many
Where's the
perennial
money
issues
go?
over there that we keep
Well,
talking about
here's a
year after
bigger
year after
issue.
year, like fantasy sports or, you know, the marijuana thing, which is, I think, a good one and should be moving along. And the other perennial issues that we keep seeing year after year, right?
The big campus carry is going to be a big fight before it's done. Right. Religious liberty has turned out not to be much of a fight there, and we haven't heard from you on Plan B, which is the plan to revisit the issue of failing schools in the state. And I think something's got to be done. And I want the governor's office to handle it, not the school superintendent. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let's just go back and educate our viewers. I mean, there was a House bill that went over to the Senate, and I believe, Dick, that it was nothing but a Trojan horse. It had some changes in there. It created this advisory committee, and also at a time where 152 counties rejected this opportunity school district, I think School Takeover 2.0 went over to the Senate. Now, what our viewers have got to be very mindful of is that what I'm hearing and at the Capitol every day is that Republicans are going to try to put some of those divisive statutes back into this bill. They're going to put some language back in the bill that was on the referendum last year. And so what we got to be really mindful of is that this may change in the Senate, and if it goes into a conference committee and goes back to the House, a lot of these Democrats who voted for this, I call it Takeover 2.0, are going to have to really, really make sure that they're listening to their constituents when they're voting on this new bill.
Well, I'll stick to my guns of 3 years now. We've got a lot of failing schools that have got to be fixed. And I really think something has to be done.
You know, just a footnote, too, and Jeff and I talk about this a lot. I was looking at a couple of the Richmond County schools that are failing schools, and we talk about money, and sometimes you need money, but sometimes it's more than money. 2 of these failing schools in Richmond County have a 40% absentee rate. We cannot go on in this state, and I think we would all agree on that when we see a problem like that. You can have the best teachers in the world, but if you've got that absentee rate, we've got to do more with parents. And you've always said this, and I've always agreed with you.
We've got to do more with parents.
Do more.
I agree, but you know, we keep talking about failing schools, when in fact, it's the state of Georgia that has failed these students. They've done it decade after decade, century after century,
No, it isn't.
and
It's
it
the
has
parents.
caught up with us.
It's the absence of parents. Come on.
No.
The state
Wait a
provides
minute.
the structure. That's all they can do.
The state provides the
Parents
structure.
have an obligation to raise their children. That argument is stupid.
The state spends a century of de jure segregation, and you're saying the state has no role, really, of screwing over black citizens? And so now you see this racial disparity.
Got a very good education.
Now you see this racial disparity, and you don't think that it has anything to do with the state? The state is not complicit in any way
do you see
at all?
Do you see
really?
progress?
Not for today's kids.
Do you see any progress?
But the one thing we should...
In the 70s, we didn't have kindergarten in the state because the legislature didn't want to pay for it
white
for little
kids and black kids.
Well,
do you
it
see,
did.
You don't
Penalize
see
black
any,
kids and
you
white
don't see
kids.
any progress whatsoever.
I think that we need to stop talking about failing schools, get to the bottom of this issue, and try to fix it. We used to disinvest in the education of African Americans in the state, and we did it methodically and legally
I don't see your
by the
Democrat,
state legislature. You want to fix it?
I don't see,
reinvest in those you disinvested
I don't
in.
see your Democrat friends offering anything. I don't see the Democrats offering anything to fix what you claim is broken.
Well, that's not true.
They
but
want
also,
more welfare programs.
No,
Phil.
that's
They
not
want
true.
handouts.
But let's also point out, guys, that there's dissension amongst the Republican Party down at the Capitol. Okay,
you have to shift to this.
No, but let's just be factual. No, because you had the state school superintendent who wanted some authority and some say-so into if this, I believe, Takeover 2.0 goes through, would appoint this superintendent, which he or she still directly reports to the governor. And so I think I totally agree with Jeff. I think that, listen, Governor Deal, time and time again, has had an opportunity to fully fund education. You just talked about his budget, and I agree with you that he could not put this budget through without fully funding for the education. So I think at a time where you're taking away local control from parents, you're taking local control away from these teachers, and you're still pushing this negative stigma that these schools are failing. That's the problem.
Some of these local boards have failed repeatedly.
Well,
let me finish. Get off your high horse a second, because you remember Clayton County? Now they're doing better, but the locals couldn't handle it there. And there's other localities. DeKalb County.
But let me ask you one question, Phil. Does the state data show that a lot of these schools that you guys put on this so-called failing list are actually improving at a higher rate? No,
some are and some aren't.
The majority of them are.
Some aren't.
So
stop to be objective.
Yeah, okay, so say that for our viewers, but don't come over here with these alternative facts
turnaround help?
and just want to point out 2 schools in Richmond County, but don't really focus on the entire state.
Change the subject.
Not only that, but you mentioned DeKalb County. When I moved here in the 1980s, DeKalb County was a dual school system, one for white and one for blacks, and was under federal court supervision. And you're trying to act as if that is ancient history, and I submit to you that it is not.
But are we making progress? That's
Yes,
all
we
I'm
are.
asking. Okay,
but
there's
no model in this bill. The problem with this statute that the governor is trying to put through is that it does not have any provisions in there to measure success. So therefore, you guys are able to come out in these sessions and continue to say they're failing, but there's no language in the bill that actual measures progress.
But we do already have test standards. We already do have metrics. Now, I agree it's not a complete, perfect plan,
right?
But at least there's a turnaround where you can help these local boards that I think some of them have failed.
We've got to get out. And I'll just bet you that when Theron was growing up in Clark County, absenteeism was not an issue. Your mama told you, get out of bed and get to school, right?
Absolutely, but I had some great teachers along the way.
And that wasn't a legacy of slavery, and it wasn't a legacy of Jeff's 150 years of servitude.
Well, let me tell you what, for a lot of people in Clark County it was, and it could very well be that Theron is the exception.
The rare exception.
Well, I'll agree he's an exception.
Right.
But he's a good one.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Right. When we come back, we'll tell you about Kasim Reed's latest. It's a good one for him. Underground is sold. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
Things rarely go the way I envisioned them. Think about that first segment. Legislature, boring, no controversy. My theory. All of a sudden, eruption. Jeff.
Hey, we made it interesting.
Fair debate.
Right? Yeah.
Now let's turn to local news.
Anything but boring.
Actually, I think the local news is more interesting, and I think we don't have to say much about it, but Underground Atlanta has been sold, finally, to a developer from South Carolina, Kasim Reed, trying to clear dead properties off the city's asset list.
And rightfully so.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a good thing. And I'm guessing, Theron, you do some work for casinos. I guess this takes Underground off the table as a casino site.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, listen, this is a big win for the mayor. I know Jeff and I both agree on this. We all at the panel agree on this.
I actually agree. This is a big win.
This is something that he's been working on from day one. I mean, when I was with him, when we took office in 2010. The underground was at the top of everyone's list as far as redevelopment. As far as casinos, listen, I think that ultimately we will have destination casino resorts.
It's not going to be there.
It just probably won't be in that location.
You know, but it is one of a string of properties that he's taken off the taxpayers' rolls, right? It's not just underground. I mean, the Civic Center was another.
Right.
We've seen Ponce City Market move as well, the old old City
his
Hall.
record is terrific on
Not
this.
to mention Turner Field, which happened, you know, with excellent timing.
Now, on one of
And
your
so when you
favorite
look at them all-
topics this week, Jeff, there was an $80 million project announced for the Atlanta Beltline. It's supposed to be apartments. We need more apartments, but it's supposed to be apartments, and it's supposed to be a mix according to the city formula for affordable housing, right? You think that's a good thing?
Workforce housing, absolutely, because when you look
You
at
understand
the
the
city,
developer, North American Properties, never keeps its word.
Well, no. First of all,
North American Properties cannot be trusted on this deal, Jeff.
I'm sorry if
They're
they have,
welchers.
I'm sorry if they've done some things out there in Dunwoody that you don't appreciate, but I think that they've got a great
actually
record
Sandy
in town.
Springs.
Sandy Springs. I knew it was one of the two.
One or two.
But we need workforce housing. We need affordable housing.
Dirt.
We need workforce housing and affordable housing here. This is that first step. And the mayor has been insisting when these deals go through that we have an affordable housing component. Invest Atlanta has been insisting that we have an affordable housing component.
Well, then we'll
And
have
it is
better
in this
schools
deal.
because we'll have better environments for kids to live in, right? That's how your argument goes?
Well, let's hope that we have better schools. I mean, we have to do better than what we've been doing. There's
All
no
right.
question about that.
Also, there's a move in the foot in the General Assembly that's kind of interesting for the city of Atlanta to have a state-mandated inspector general. This is a reaction to the bribery scandal at City Hall.
No, this is a reaction to mayoral politics.
Well, that's true,
Well,
too.
you're speaking of Senator Vincent Fort, but and I rarely agree with Vincent Fort, but
That's not true, Phil. You've been agreeing with Vincent Ford a lot on this show.
but why do we need Inspector General?
Well, when he gets
That's not true, Phil.
when he gets to be a populist and a nationalist,
we
that
have a
kinda
city
makes
auditor.
sense.
We have a city auditor. Why do we need a city
Well, we
inspector
remember
general?
this expected general idea back in the Senator Purdue days. Remember that?
We need
I
an
mean,
independent
Well, that's where I'm going.
How's
I
that
know where
I'm
you're
going.
going, so I can read your mind, Dick. I know
That's where we're going.
And so,
When was the last time any of us heard from the state inspector general?
Well, it's been crickets.
Who is the state inspector general?
But we need somebody.
Is it John Spicer? I don't know.
Well,
So we need a new one there.
And maybe we need a more aggressive attorney general. We've got a new one, but I just want someone on the outside because in the city with a bribery scandal,
That's
obviously,
what we said about the
obviously
state.
things are failing
supposed
at
to be an
City Hall.
outside auditor.
Where's the bribery
Yeah.
scandal?
Oh, you
What
haven't heard of
bribery
that? Yeah,
scandal? I haven't heard
we
about
had-
a bribery scandal.
You had 2 convictions. Have you heard
Really?
about that?
What were they convicted of?
And do you know the investigation?
What were they convicted
do you know
of,
the
Phil? Do you
investigation?
know?
Giving
Can
$1
I
million
finish my
in
point?
bribes.
Yeah, that's
No.
right. And
Wrong.
Conspiring.
Wrong. Conspiring.
Yeah.
To bribe. Has anybody been
and
charged
so,
with bribery?
So it means nothing? It
Has
means
anybody
nothing?
been
I
charged
wouldn't
with
go out on
bribery?
that
Do you know of
limb.
anybody
No.
being charged with bribery?
Jeff,
Darren?
I wouldn't
Do you
go out
know of
on that
anybody
limb.
being charged with accepting a bribe,
I do not
Darren?
know. No.
I haven't heard that.
Let's
Have you heard-
The name
earmark.
Adam Smith.
Let's
He was
earmark.
not charged with
My
either.
sources
Wait a
say
minute,
he's
wait a minute,
talking.
wait a minute, wait a
My
minute.
sources say he's
Let's
talking.
earmark
Who are these
these
sources?
You always
Stop.
sources.
You always defend
No, I want to know these
casino rate.
sources because it's
Phil,
so funny to me.
here's
Every
what we're
time
gonna
you
do,
say
Phil.
something
As a
on the show,
journalist, I
the
don't
next
have to,
week something
I don't have to
happens.
reveal them.
Phil, here's what we're
And
going to do.
I've been pretty good on this scandal,
You
which you guys don't even admit
We're
exists.
going to save and earmark the tape of what Jeff just said.
Please do.
And when those
Please
bribery
do.
indictments come down, we're
And
going to
when
replay
they
it.
don't,
That's right.
And when they don't, play it.
All right, now in DeKalb County, always the source of news, sometimes frivolity, sometimes news. The DeKalb Commission wrote the General Assembly delegation that they would like a raise from their current $40,000 per year for a part-time job to either $60,000 a year or $90,000 a year. They really weren't sure. But anyway, they wanted their salary essentially doubled for a part-time job.
Half, and there was the discrepancy. It was half of the pay of a Superior Court judge.
If you count
Is
the
that
local
correct?
supplement or not.
Right,
If you
exactly
don't,
right.
it's 60. If you do, it's
That's
90.
right. That's exactly right.
$90,000 a year for a part-time job.
Well, don't make it a part-time job if you want to. If you want to pay them $90,000 a year, or they want to be paid $90,000 a year. I would agree with you, Dick, that if you're going to give them a full-time salary, make it a full-time job, and you can't have outside income.
But let's also point out that
You're
these
reading my
commissioners,
notes.
but these commissioners work full time. Now, I agree that.
Well, they shouldn't.
Well, the timing.
And they have other jobs, too.
But here's the thing. They should work full-time, Dick, because as you and Phil pointed out in this show.
The essence of government is part-time service and professional government.
The county is on the right move, okay? We have complimented the CEO and these new commissioners on basically dealing with this issue with water meters, passing a budget, and trying to bring economic development. Okay, he's full-time. But my point is, this is the point. I think the timing of this letter and the optics politically probably doesn't, wasn't a good time.
Sharon Barnes Sutton spending 40 hours a week.
She's not elected anymore. She's not on the commission. That's my point.
She's not on the commission.
All right, but I think.
Do you want Steve Bradshaw there full time? Maybe so.
Just to finish up.
Full time. And paying full time.
They knew what the salaries were when they ran for office. So if you're going to give a raise, do it for the next.
But if it's a full time job, pay people for full time work.
But the fourth largest county, and if you look at this, the sheet, they are actually comparable. $60,000 will be comparable to their neighbors in Fulton and Cobb and Gwinnett. And Atlanta is the highest paid at 60.
And that's even more ridiculous because there are 15 council members.
Waste of money.
Total waste of money. Don't forget the aides they all have.
Yeah, that's
This has become out of control.
That's right.
These are part-time citizen legislators. They are not full-time government bureaucrats.
Investing full-time hours.
Well, they shouldn't.
They shouldn't do their jobs.
So you don't want your water meters fixed.
When we come back, it's heating up in that 6th congressional district north of Atlanta. Stay with us. We'll try to analyze it.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
On the political front, we can acknowledge this week that Brian Kemp, the Secretary of State, is likely to run for governor. There's no surprise there. I think the surprise was last week when we talked about David Ralston, the Speaker of the House, perhaps running for governor. But there's time for all that.
Well, and you also have, I think, Stacey Abrams, the Democrat minority leader of the House of Representatives, look for an announcement from her, too.
Okay, but that's 2018. What I'd like to do is spend a little bit of time looking at the special election for Tom Price's seat, the 6th congressional district seat. I say that because it's unusual. This is really something we haven't seen before, or at least to the degree that it is, where you've got the Democrats choosing a candidate among their five. They have 5 candidates in the race. The Democrats have anointed one, John Ossoff, to be their choice.
The National Democrats.
The National Democrats have. And he's raised up to $3 million from all the commie groups. Daily Cause, MoveOn.org. It's really amazing. $3 million for this young man. He's 30 years old. And the TV purchases are stupendous. You cannot turn on the TV without seeing either John Ossoff himself or the Republican ads out of Washington attacking John Ossoff.
Dick, if I could weigh in, Ron Slotin is one of the candidates in that race, and I have a lot of respect for him. He's a former state lawmaker. He is a hard worker. I noticed in some polls that he is coming up a little bit. He's going to drain away from this Ossoff. And
he might not get the oxygen, Phil. I had him in mind when I brought this up.
But
the National Party is screwing over guys like Ron Slotin. You know that.
Listen. Let's back up. Okay, John Ossoff has gone out here and raised this money. He's doing the smart thing. He's trying to define himself before the Republicans in Washington, D.C. and the Republicans here locally can pay him, as Phil likes to do, this socialist and this ultra-liberal from Cobb County or from Fulton County.
But he is.
But number two is that if the Republicans were so not concerned about him winning, they wouldn't have started attacking this guy a month ago. They have spent more money talking about his addiction, not addiction, but his infatuation with Star Wars and all that stuff. And so,
but Theron, you're a strategist. You know why?
I know how to win races.
It's a special election, and so
So what he's got to do is that you got to make people aware that there's an election
going on.
Both sides
have to do
now
it.
let's also talk about how there's Republican.
We're in a Republican district, and we're talking about a Democratic candidate, and that's what really upsets you.
Well, you bet.
Right?
That's why I say
because you got
it's
a guy who is a Democrat, 30 years old, who has the momentum in that race and has the promise of being able to embarrass the President of the United States for handing a Republican district.
But what's interesting is
well, you're dreaming again because
to the guy who replaces Tom Price.
For the viewers, Dick, let's just point out there's a special election and there's going to be a runoff because of the crowded field, and so Tom Price, who was the incumbent, got 61% in that district. So you're dreaming.
Yeah, but Donald Trump won it by 1%.
Donald Trump,
1%. Yeah, I mean, he won it by 1%.
I know it.
And it's extremely unpopular in that district. That's why you got people
You don't
like,
know that.
No, he is. I've seen polling.
In fact, we're going to have.
That's right.
He's got these alternative facts again. Phil, these alternative
for Fox 5 in a week or so, and we'll see if Theron's right.
No, that's going to come from your outlet. But I'm telling you the polls that I've seen. This guy is.
Dunwoody, Brookhaven, Sandy Springs all voted for Hillary Clinton. One of the more astounding facts in the November election. That was because they didn't like
what you're
Donald
seeing
Trump.
now is you're seeing Republicans of all stripes. They like what's going on with the booming economy. They like the new Supreme Court pick. They like the best cabinet.
Phil,
so I think these
Donald
never-Trumpers are now going.
If Donald Trump was so popular in the district, he would be up on television right now.
They like the fake news. They like the Russia connection.
He's going to wisely stay neutral.
Wisely.
Back up. Theron, is it right for the Democratic Party to anoint one candidate?
No one has been anointed. No one has been anointed.
Just like they did with Hillary Clinton and they screwed Bernie Sanders.
No one has been anointed.
I'd say $3 million is an anointment.
This young man has raised the money. He's doing it because we have a very unpopular president right now. He's a symbol of resistance and change in this country.
And they've knifed this Ron Slotin and the others
in the back. It makes absolutely good sense to anoint one Democratic
and to hell with anyone else in the Democratic primary.
And allow one person to go forward. It ought to be happening in some other races. I won't name them. But in that race, it makes perfectly good sense to anoint one to fight that Republican field.
These are the Democratic elites.
He'll be in the runoff.
The Democratic elites don't care what the other Democrats say.
Let's get out. We've got two more. You know, this race is only less than 30 days away.
That's right.
30 days away to see if a young, rich Democrat can buy himself a seat in Congress after working for Al Jazeera. It's really strange.
You always get the last word.
It's really strange.
Like an old rich president?
So when we, he didn't buy it.
He didn't buy it?
He stole it.
No.
Oh,
with the
he did
Russians.
Steal it.
With the Russians.
All right, when we come back, winners and losers.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
Well, I hope we brought you more light than heat on this Sunday morning. I guess you all will make that decision. Let's do winners and losers now. And Jeff, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Dick. Probably more heat than light. Mayor Reed for closing the underground deal. Lou Deckmeyer is the police chief in LaGrange, Georgia, and has apologized for the 1940 lynching of Austin Calloway. And this morning in LaGrange, they held a sunrise service and recited the names of 600 who were lynched in Georgia. And so hats off to them and the reconciliation work they're doing there. If we did it all over the South, we'd be a much better place. The President of the United States in the White House, I don't know if that's Bannon or Trump, but somebody has introduced the cruelest, most mean-spirited budget imaginable. Most of it for the low-income white people who elected him and older people, because it kills folks who are 55, 60 years old. It kills folks who live in rural areas. It is the most mean-spirited budget any president has ever given, has ever submitted to
No, it's okay.
any Congress.
Theron, what you got?
You know, we're in basketball season, so I want to give a big shout out to my alma mater, Clark Atlanta University, the men's basketball team. They won the SIAC championship, but also we had some local wins as well. I want to give a big shout out to the Benjamin E. Mays women's basketball team. They won the state championship. You're a former referee. South Atlanta men's basketball team. They won the state championship. And also the APS co-ed adaptive special needs basketball team also won. And then lastly, I went to Clark Central High School in Athens, but Cedar Shoals made it to the state championship. So as a gladiator, I got to give a shout out to my fellow Jaguars as well. I agree with Jeff. Donald Trump is the big loser this week. How can you cut Meals on Wheels?
Because it's not a federal government responsibility.
No, but it's a plan that gives 1 million meals a week to Americans all across the country.
No,
How dare
let
you?
cities, counties, and states do that if there's a need for it. Keep the
But you don't want to work.
Here's
You just
the
want to work
traitors on
part-time.
folks.
I've got a couple if I can squeeze
Please.
them in. I've got the Georgia High School Association Executive Director. You may know him, Dick,
I
Gary
do.
Phillips. You know, the legislators tried to force him out. There was a compromise. He's retiring after this term with dignity. He's a great guy. And I don't know if you all know this, but he was actually the
Man,
great
we don't
Herschel
want this-
Walker. He was Herschel Walker's coach in high school.
I didn't know that at
Yeah.
Wrightsville. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
But let me finish
We don't
up.
want the state running the high school athletic programs.
I agree with you. President Trump, great economic policy, stock market doing great. Home Depot hiring 80,000 workers by next week.
Wow.
Everything is booming so much. And you know, there was a win by Joe Rogers, the chairman of Waffle House. You remember he was involved in that sensational sex videotape?
Okay.
Well, the Georgia Court of Appeals has said, wait a minute, you need to get substantial legal fees. Those two lawyers, you remember, that urged the woman, the housekeeper,
Yeah,
to
the
make
Bar
that secret
Association.
taping. That is
Phil,
so
do you get your hash
unethical.
brown smothered?
That is so unethical. But
Smothered and
anyhow,
covered.
Joe
Smothered and
Rogers, the winner.
Like a smothered and covered kind of.
And Johnny Isaacson back for another round of back surgery at St. Joseph's Hospital. We wish him well. Got to get that thing straightened up. Got some heavy lifting to do, cutting Meals on Wheels and other programs the government has no business being involved in.
Oh, they won't.
And I've got that. And then, of course, I'm a DeKalb resident. Just think about it. It never stops. Another 1 cent sales tax in DeKalb County, right, for roads because they haven't bothered to pave roads in 25 years. And now they want a pay raise? Are you kidding me? All right, we'll see you next week on the Georgia Gang.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.